kind of knows. All right, so let me see. I want to kind of get into a little bit more of the Texan token,
Yeah.
Because something that we've mastered through trial and error in the Hexagon community is the staking ladder, right?
Yeah.
You had people doing stakes every day, you had people doing stakes every week, and we learned a lot mostly by our mistakes of a staking ladder. And you can definitely do a staking ladder with the Texan token, but the Texan token offers something called, scraping.
Yes.
So you can scrape your interest, but it puts you back at the back of the line. I was trying to describe this to my daughter. Let me see here. I'm going to do a screen share and see if I can get the first one up here. Windows.
Let me take a moment to kind of talk about what
Yeah,
it
you
is.
talk about it while I try to get this ready to share.
Yeah. So the first thing that I want to point out, I kind of like that Johnny touched on this a little bit. He says the really cool thing is when you have projects that kind of go after people who aren't involved in crypto, because that brings additional capital to the ecosystem that isn't already circulating. So let's just have this thought experiment where no hexagons are involved in this project whatsoever. None. No hexagons there. So what does that leave us? That leaves us with a community of about 435,000 members, of which I'm going to estimate that we will be able to onboard to Pulse Chain, at least in the first 6 months. I would say 10 to 20% of those people, because we have set this up in such a way that in order to receive the airdrop no value tokens, you have to submit an ERC20 address. The neat thing is we have our team working on all those videos to help onboard these little old ladies from West Texas, right? That are already donating, by the way. They might be donating $20, $50, $100 a month to this organization. So we kind of want to use blockchain and crypto and tailor it towards these nonprofit communities, because we think, and you guys may or may not think this, but we think that this is probably the most incredible tool for nonprofits moving forward that nobody knows about yet. So people are already used to donating every single month, steady stream of income. So what's the difference now? The difference is this was a very passive donation before, but now people will also have skin in the game because it's going to be on blockchain. So remember, we took all the hexagons off the board. If we can get 30 to 40,000, 50,000 wallets within the first 6 months, I consider that a massive win. And some of my detractors say that, you're just milking support from hexagons. That couldn't be further from the truth, I believe. We are not milking support from the hexagons. In fact, we are trying to bring adoption to Pulse Chain by solving a problem, which is bringing no coiners in, bringing new money in, not bringing recycled money in. So if we look at it that way, let's just kind of get into the details of what Texan Token actually is. Texan Token will be a PRC20. Will launch on the Pulse Chain. You will be able to stake your Texan Token. With staking, you will receive a 5% annual base interest rate on the stake. In addition to that, every single year that you are staked, you have a longer pays better multiplier. There is no bigger pays better. It's longer. We want to incentivize people to hold this. All right. We're calling this, this is an endowment token, okay, on the blockchain. So why are we using that word? Well, endowments in the traditional sense, it allows people to put money in, say you're a college or a university. In the traditional sense, you're going to put money in and you want to be able to use the yield from that money that you're putting in as principal to be able to pay for operational costs. That's what an endowment is. Matt has been in the endowment space for 25 years here. So we wanted to take that concept and we wanted people to be able to lock in their principal. In the traditional endowment spaces, people are used to 20 to 30 year time horizons. That's why we made this, you're able to stake for 22 years. And that's simply because we wanted to kind of speak the same language that those folks are already speaking. So what you can do, you stake it. It's a 5% annual base return. Every single year that you hold on to it, you're going to get a little bit of a better multiplier. All right. Over the course of 22 years, if you hadn't scraped at all, you would average about 87% per year. Okay. And we're going to talk about how that's possible. But essentially, it's a curve. So at the beginning, it's not going to be 87%. It's going to be much smaller. Towards the end, it's going to be much larger. And here comes the other part. There is a 100 trillion supply of this token. 100 trillion. On day one, it's going to launch with its total supply. Out of that 100 trillion, 97% is going to be locked up in a contract, and the keys are going to be burned. So this 97% is going to act like a giant credit and debit account. 3% will be divvied out to people who donate, for partners, and for the team. So 3% will be divvied out there. One interesting aspect that nobody talks about is the partners and the team are required to stake their allotment for 22 years right away. All right. So that's going to leave us with about 1% of the supply that is divvied out, and that's going to be based on donations, things of that nature. So what we do here is when you go to stake, let's say you're going to stake for 22 years, when you interact with the contract, it looks at that 22-year stake, it calculates the total amount of interest that you will actually have, and it completely burns that out of supply. So what that means is that 97% that's locked up, it's going to be hopefully like a gold mine. Go get your gold, because eventually it's not going to be there. Now, the fact that it's reserved ensures that there are no problems. There are no problems or train wrecks in the future. So it's going to burn that completely out of supply. All right. The interesting thing is, too, if you do early in stake, there will be penalties. Now, the penalties, those will be completely burned. That's how we get to the deflationary aspect of this token. Total supply launched. All penalties will be burned completely. They don't go to stakers. Some protocols do that, and then they don't go to an OA. Some protocols do that too. We just we want to make sure that everybody in a way is benefited there. So in terms of price appreciation, that's how that would work. And in terms of the fact that it's deflationary, that's how that would work as well. So yeah, that's what we got here now. Hexray, you put some work in, man.
Yeah, I kind of went Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia over the last few days. In fact, let me hold up some of the previous charts that I was messing with before. I had a graphic artist actually make these for me, because these make sense to your brain, where, stuff like this right here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
It's just bananas. It's just craziness. So yeah, I was trying to get my idea on paper, and it was my wife was concerned. So anyways,
yeah, break this down for us. What do we got here?
Yeah, I like the term staking ladder, and then the term came to me when we were talking of a scraping ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So you can set this up kind of like an annuity. So on the left, you have the yield curve for Texan token. And I was trying to explain this to my daughter. She was trying to put these charts together for me. And the way I picture it is kind of like a bamboo shoot that grows so many inches a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first year, let me get rid of the nipple comment there. The first year, you get 5%. The next is, I believe, 6, then 8, 11, 12. It's hard for me to see on the screen right now.
You can actually maximize your screen, full screen. You'll be able to see it okay. I think it's bottom right.
There we go. Yep. Yeah. So the first year, let's say the bamboo shoot grows 5 inches, and then 1 more inch, or 6 more, 1 more inch on the second year, 3 more inches, 2 more inches. So if you imagine a bamboo shoot growing 236 inches tall over the course of 22 years, that's kind of what you have.
Sure.
So if you scrape your interest, it's kind of like chopping that bamboo shoot So if you chop the first 5 inches the first year, the next year it's just going to grow back 5 inches. But if you wait until, say, year 17, it'll be 141 inches that you cut it down at, right?
Yeah, and this is something important to interject here. The way this works is, and we have these tables on texan.cc. You can see in our white paper, you can see the exact math to hundredths or thousandths of a decimal here. But let's say you did stake for 22 years, and let's say 6 or 7 years in, you say, you know what, I really like Hex is on fire right now. Maybe I can scrape all of my accumulated interest up until that point, and I can take that and I can swap it for Hex and do a 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, whatever the case may be. You can do that. So all the accumulated interest up until that point can be scraped. Now, what that does is it sets your timer back to day one for interest. So you would start back at the 5%, the 6%, 8%, 11%, 15%, etc. But you don't need to sell, and there is no penalty for selling. You get to keep all of that squared away. What the system will do is scrape. It will go back in, and it will recalculate how much you can have after that 22-year period, and then it again reserves that for you. It takes it out of that 97% supply. So again, there will be no train wrecks in the future because it is very, very, very simple. But go ahead, Hexray.
Yeah, and so basically, like I said, you can scrape one, and I got thinking about that. Basically, you're kind of like, in a way, you're harvesting a crop or a plant, or it's almost like aging cheese or wine, right? There's a point where it's going to be much more valuable. So my idea was, instead of setting different stakes at different years like we do with Hex, what if you staked a whole bunch of stakes at 22 years, max them out, and then you harvest them on a schedule that allows them to grow back like a crop.
Nice. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So here's my idea of the scraping ladder instead of the staking ladder. So on the left-hand side of the screen, that's the Texan token yield curve that you and Heartbeat were kind enough to get me. This is actually an updated one because that one was low res, but so my daughter made this a higher res, but it's the same.
Thank you, daughter.
Same one. Thank you, daughter. So what I did is I pictured, well, what if you wanted to really turn this into an annuity, right? And really try to maximize the idea of your stakes and your interest growing back. So on the right hand of the side, this is a chart of one of the strategies, which I call the harvesting or scraping strategy. So this is like, I want to take money out, but I also want to take advantage of the yield curve, right? So I took this is based on you taking your whole bag of Texan tokens and taking 10% at the bottom of the screen. You can see 10% are going to be held liquid for the first 7 years.
Okay.
So you don't want to harvest or scrape for the first 7 years, because as you can see on the left hand of the screen, it really doesn't like pick up any steam till like year 8.
Right. 7,
right.
8,
like it's on the curve, right? So around year 8's where it gets good, because it goes 33, 41, 50, 67. It really starts to pick up some steam there. So my idea is keep 10% liquid in case you want that money in the first 7 years, because I mean, there's a lot of people that wish they had a bunch of liquid Hex when it hit 50 cents, right? But they were good hexagons, so they left it locked, and it's still locked. And it's still doing what it has to. But I think the thing that hexagons have learned over the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years, is you never know what you want. As much flexibility as possible, right? And so this would give you 10% liquid for emergencies or buying dips or anything that you wanted to cash out. Let's say it goes skyrocketing in the 4th year. Well, you have 10% of your stuff liquid that you can sell, take some profit, right? And so imagine you'll see it at line 8. We start with stake A, which is 20% of your bag. And then it goes all the way up on year 17, stake J, which is 3% of your bag. Now, these green lines are the interest that you're scraping. They're not the stakes. Okay. All of these stakes are up on line 22. So on line 22 at the top, or year 22, all 10 principal stakes A through J are 90% of your bag of TTT. TTT is total Texan tokens, as you can see in the legend down in the corner. So you got these 10 stakes all at 22 years of different sizes. So you scrape the biggest one first, going down to the smallest, right? And so this actually, the math actually equals to getting about the same amount of interest every year, even though you're scraping less for more, right? So on year 8, you would scrape 33% of your biggest stake. And then year 9, you get 41% of your second, and so on, to where on year 17, you get to scrape 141% of one of your smallest stake,
right?
Which is kind of crazy. And then we've ran out of stakes on year 18, but because we've waited 10 years since we scraped the first stake, it's grown back to 50%.
Sure.
So A, B, C, and D have all grown back to the 50% when you go back to harvest them years 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Yeah, and here, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no. Here's the important thing to understand is this would seem completely impossible if it not were for the fact that this is not going to be an unlimited supply. This is not going to inflate forever. So the incentive is actually to go grab this before it runs out. Now, we have modeled this with average number of users that were applied to kind of like Hex, for example, or wallets, the sacrifice for Pulse Chain and PulseX. We've done a lot. We don't expect this to run out for about 50 years, but that still depends on depends on adoption. So, and that's the neat thing. When you do make this stake, it is reserved for you and you alone.
Yeah. Awesome. So like I said, this is just one way that if you apply delayed gratification for 7 years, not completely, you have 10% there, which I always tell people, keep 10% liquid of anything. I tell people keep 10% liquid of Hex, right? Because you never know when RH does another sacrifice phase, right? So this year, the year of the bear, we've learned the importance of powder, having some dry powder, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't give up my T-shares for the world. They're working harder than I ever did at any of my jobs, right? But you that flexibility, we're all looking for game theory, right? We're all looking to win and get the most out of every little piece of math, right?
Yeah, and you want to be involved. You want to be involved with, I think, with an ecosystem that has multiple yield-bearing components, and we see that already. We see that with Hedron. You know, obviously Hex is the Rolls Royce. This is much simpler than Hex, and it's not a good thing or bad thing. It's just apples and oranges. You know, we don't have a T-share system, which is brilliant. Simulated compound interest and things of that nature. The biggest thing that we're bringing to the table is the ability for people to be able to scrape their interest and be able to use that in other protocols as well to compound. And if you have 3 or 4 or 5 of those, and you've got adoption to a layer 1, you've got a bunch of people, influencers or YouTubers or just people out there that are talking about all these projects, this community can be extremely powerful. And then you compound the fact that we're not targeting Hexkins. We're targeting people who aren't in crypto. We're targeting existing communities to tokenize existing communities. And some people say, well, it's a promise, Brandon. You're making this a promise coin. So it's not a promise coin because we have already signed on the dotted line. It's done. Okay.
Well,
so
the game cartridge is made, right? The game cartridge is being tested on testnet right now.
Yeah, and not only that, but the thing I want to point out is this isn't just some pipe dream. Like the organization that we're working with, we're all in. Both of us are all in. We're partners on this. So the neat thing after this too is once it's released, again, no admin keys, immutability, all the things that Richard taught us, this is going to apply to this as well. And then it's up to the market to be able to do that. However, it's not just up to the market. There's an extra like foundation here. It's the fact that these people, these members, they're already participating outside of crypto and helping keep this organization afloat every month. And now they're going to have a piece of that pie. It's not just going to be give them this and forget about it forever. Now you can actually participate. And that's why we think that kind of this idea and this notion, hopefully a lot of people will see this. It'll catch on with other projects too, because this is just really, really powerful for nonprofits. Extremely powerful.
Right. And let me make a couple points about this. Obviously, this is for someone who thinks they're going to be alive in 22 years.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in your 60s or 70s. You can obviously adjust this to taking the scrapes earlier, or depending on your legacy. The next slide will talk more about legacy, because some hexagons don't plan on ever taking profit of some of their T-shares. Like there's a lot of hexagons that see hex or these instruments as a way to leave a legacy to their kids and grandkids, right? So if you use this economic momentum the way it's supposed to be used, then it can basically live forever. It can snowball more than your what they call the burn rate, or how much money you're spending. You might hit that somewhere on this stake. Like you might get to year 12 and you're like, I don't need all the money coming out. I don't even need to scrape this year. And you just let it roll.
Yeah.
Right. But this is just kind of an idea of how you can have some powder for the first 7, 5, whatever years you want to wait, so you're not destitute and totally locked. And then how you can basically pull a really good chunk out without killing the golden goose, letting the golden goose, or in my analogy, letting the bamboo shoot keep growing, right? You're not ripping the roots out of the ground.
Exactly. And I wanted to point this out too. We really are about, we understand, Matt and I understand Crypto Heartbeat, for you guys in chat. We understand that this community is, it's powerful. It made us who we are. And we're helping pump everybody else's bags too. It's just a very symbiotic relationship, right? So we are going to airdrop the Hex Staker class. We're going to do the Pulse Chain folks, and we're going to do the Pulse X folks. And that was a change that we just recently made here. So I'm excited to announce that, because initially it wasn't that, but we're going to go ahead and do that. And it will be of value. It's not going to be, you know, quote, it's not going to be pennies on the dollar here. So we want to make sure that people have the ability to participate. We know that a lot of people who got into the Pulse X sacrifice, they're new to this ecosystem. And I'll tell you guys this, you can hold Texan, you can dump it, you can buy Hex. It's whatever you want to do. All right. But we're giving it to you to make that decision and that choice.
Right. I'm trying to pull the other one up, but it doesn't want to pull up yet. So,
oh, no worries.
Do they have any questions in chat right now about what you've gone over?
Doesn't seem like there's much many questions here. It's really that it's pretty simple and straightforward. Unless David, do you have any questions about it?
Far aliens leaving everyone in his family a penny.
No, I mean the only questions I mean, I guess Hexray kind of went over it.
Yeah.
You know, my questions would be, what would be the recommended, you know, staking strategy for this?
Yeah.
You know, like in Hex, that, you know, I'm a big fan of the yearly staking ladder, but this is interesting. I don't know. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this.
Yeah, here part of the reason that we even do these streams is obviously get the word out, but we encourage the community. We want to use your brains. Come up with some interesting ideas. We'll slap your name on it and we'll promote it, because this is different. And it provides a different type of flexibility. So in terms of recommendations, it's really going to depend, I guess, on what your goals are. If you want that income paid in Texan yield, then maybe you do set up multiple scrapes. I really like your idea, Hexray. I think that's freaking awesome. I think what you did is really cool, because it provides constant yield.
Yeah, it's like how you want to be financially free as soon as possible. And I think if you do anything like in Hex, where you do the 5-5-5-5 stakes, right? Eventually you're going to get to a day where that's possible on almost any budget if you put in the delayed gratification.
Sure.
But somewhere in between those 15 years, you might have all the money you want, but it's still locked up for 15 years. Yeah. And even in this one, if you locked up everything for 22 years, you'll probably achieve financial freedom in 22 years. But but laddering your stakes gives you the option to take that profit sooner, and scraping your stakes gives you that opportunity here.
Gives you options.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this one's not working, so I'm just going to
think
show
Peter,
my
do you have a
entire
question,
screen.
Peter?
Yeah. Just how does the, and I know this is all dependent on like pulse chain and timing. How does the initial minting phase work, or donation phase? What's like the timeline, or how does that work?
Yeah. So initially, what we're going to do is we'll have the donation phase, and that's going to be run completely by the folks at TNM. So you can go to texitnow.org, just kind of learn about what they do. But you'll have the donation phase, and what TNM is going to do is give us a list of addresses. Okay. And then once Pulse Chain launches, as soon as Pulse Chain launches, or as quick as we can, we're going to go ahead and launch the project and airdrop folks as soon as Pulse Chain launches. That's kind of the idea. And based on how much that you donated to them, we'll have a bonding curve as well. But for at least the first maybe week or 10 days or 20 days, there will be a 10,000 points to $1 donation ratio there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Okay, so my chart keeps disappearing and crashing on me. I'm not sure why, but if it stays up long enough, I'll explain this next strategy. So this is a strategy of super duper delayed gratification, right?
What the hell?
Okay.
A spreadsheet is crashing like a PDF?
It's it doesn't want to it doesn't want to show my picture viewer doesn't want to go. Maybe I can open it in another program and it will stop
Paint.
being
Like if you hit
pathetic.
edit. There you go.
Which one do you think? Let's try
MS Paint.
Paint. Yeah,
Classic
let's try
never
Paint.
dies.
Boom. There we go. So let me zoom out here on this one, and I'll share it with you there. Oh, I can actually zoom in and out on this one. That's nice.
You can maximize it too.
Okay, cool. So either way, this is the idea of if you wanted to
Maximize the screen top right. That should help.
this one right here.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then
Is that a little bit
on
better?
the top right, you can actually hide that whole window, like the ribbon at the top.
Well, you're not seeing the bottom of it, but that's okay. This is just the legend right here. So we'll show the top of it here. So basically, this is the same scenario, but instead of harvesting and taking profit of each one of these, actually, this is the same. This is the same one. Never mind. Yeah, don't save. We want this one right here. Let's open this one in Paint. There we go. There we go. So now this is the extra hardcore delayed gratification. Hopefully you're 40 years or younger if you're using this one, because you will probably be dead by the time this ends if you don't. But this is the same scenario where, you set up 10% of your liquid to cover the first 7 years to take profit, or to cover, family emergencies, or if you need to take the money out the first 10 years, you got some of it there. And then again, it follows the same scraping pattern as before. But in this scenario, when you scrape the 33% on year 8, you're going to restake that for 22 years. So it shows up over on the right-hand side in year 30. Do you see year 30 there?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you scrape it and put it in year 30. So if you were to scrape that interest, start another 22-year stake and not touch it, then you can see at the end of the screen, it says 236, right? So you got 236% interest if you don't touch it for 22 years. And this is just scraping every year, 8 through 22, mm-hmm. 8 through 7, right? And you're just restaking everything 22 years. So you're starting a staking ladder year 30 through 39.
Yeah, I think here's something to point out too. I think that once people start understanding this concept, then you get the idea of the scarcity of that 97% OA, because this can be used as a perpetuity, which means you've got yield for operational costs without having to sell. So that OA can get chewed up real quick, I think, once it finally clicks in people's heads. And it's kind of similar to Bitcoin inflating until it doesn't inflate anymore. And then there's no more left except, on the market. So it's a very similar concept here. And And when you start talking about these time horizons, we go out, 35 years because you're restaking, or 40 years because you're restaking. It gets kind of interesting. So
yeah, if you restake year 18, 19, 20, and 21, then you're actually staking out to year 43,
right,
I believe.
right.
43, 44.
And these are modeled 50 to 100 years. And once there's no Texan in that locked contract, there's not going to be the ability to restake. So again, yeah, just a lot of FOMO there once people understand that.
Yeah, you'll also notice that year 23 through 29 are empty, right? Because you're starting on year 8 and jumping to year 30, and so you have a gap from year 23 to year 29, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the thing is, if you do have all these, if you've been setting up these ladders during that time, as soon as you hit you're basically you're going to have your own big payday on year 22. Because you're going to get all of your interest back plus any remaining in all your principal back plus any remaining interest, right?
Yeah.
So at 22, you'll have probably enough funds to cover that gap, but you'll also have the interest to scrape from these new stakes on year 30 through 39 that you can scrape, starting at year 23, 24, 25, 26. You can do the same scraping harvesting strategy from the first slide.
So Hexray, I think you should put your name on this, and then we'll actually post it in our Telegram, and we'll post it in our channels. So this will be your strategy, man. That's good. That's awesome.
The Hexray strategy.
We can take off that pinned comment so we can see David Feeder's beautiful face.
All right, let me see there. Let me get out of this. Let me stop sharing. There we go.
Dude, great work though, man. That's the type of stuff that I love. I love using everybody's brain in the community to figure out cool things to do with this. So I'm excited to see, and I would encourage everybody, you can take a look at those tables at texan.cc, and you can get an idea of how this actually works. On top of that, we are independently audited and certified now. We paid $35,000 for it. So that's also up on the website, and that is by CERTIC, the industry standard, essentially. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. You can go to the Telegram, which is t.me/Texan Token, and Twitter is Texan_token as well. I can answer any questions. Matt can answer any questions. And we do have people on shift in our Telegram. So 24/7, no matter what part of the world you're in, we'll be able to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah. And my desire with this, just the scraping strategy, is to create a spark, because we have people in our community that are lethal with Excel spreadsheet.
Sure.
They'll take a look at my idea, and in 10 minutes, they'll have an entire set of spreadsheets set up where you get to put in your amount of Texan tokens, what you think the price will be, and it's going to spit out dollar amounts for all those years. And then also I try to think of a strategy that people can form to whatever they want. Maybe you only want 5 stakes. Maybe you want to wait till the end, but it just kind of gives people an idea to start building on. So sure. I'm just happy to be part of this crazy passionate
I think it's
community.
Awesome. Yeah, I told you from the start, I'm like, hey man, we're friends, you and I are friends, but I said it's completely up to you whether or not you want to participate, man. That's the cool thing about this. This is the blockchain. And I really like the fact I had no idea that you were doing this, man. So I really appreciate it. The other thing that I want to point out here is, and this is important, some people don't realize that I am the co-founder with Crypto Heartbeat. So I wanted to point that out, and I'm not just shilling some random project here. This is actually my blood, sweat, and tears in this, and we've been doing this for about 18 months, and myself about a year now. So just want to let everybody know that.